Welcome back to another piece of Top Choice Movies recap. Today's film was released in 2018. Titled Bird Box. Keep a keen eye for spoilers, sit back and enjoy the film. The film begins with a woman named Mallory Hayes, played by Sandra Bullock, informing two children, known only as Boy, played by Julian Edwards, and Girl, played by Vivian Lyra Blair, that they are about to embark on a dangerous journey across the water, and she emphasizes the importance of them wearing blindfolds while outside. Mallory grabs a box containing her beloved birds, and leads the youngsters outside with a string trail before locating the boat and jumping in. 5 years earlier, Mallory is an artist who is expecting a child. Her sister Jessica, played by Sarah Paulson, pays her a visit, and the two watch a TV broadcast about unexplained mass suicides that began in Siberia and are now spreading across Europe. Jess notices Mallory painting, which she interprets as a lack of connection, but Jess assures her that it will not be the case with the baby. She then offers to escort Mallory to the doctor. Mallory makes jokes with Jess about drinking while pregnant when she visits Dr. Lapham, played by Parminder Nagra. Lapham isn't amused by the comments and offers Mallory the option of having the baby adopted if she doesn't feel ready to parent it. Mallory and Jess witness a woman they passed earlier, acting erratically and slamming her head on the glass pane as they go out of the workplace. They recognize that whatever was afflicting people in Europe and Siberia has now spread to the United States. They dash outside as the carnage unfolds, with automobiles colliding into each other in the roadway. Jess drives Mallory away, but her eyes begin to change color, and she begins to appear frightened by something only she can see. Mallory tries to keep her on the road as she drives recklessly, but Jess flips the car and crashes. They survived, but Jess is still under a trance, and Mallory can only watch as her sister steps in front of a moving truck. Mallory follows in the footsteps of the others. She is thrown to the ground and lands in front of a house. A woman named Lydia, played by Rebecca Pidgeon, leaves her house to assist Mallory, despite the objections of her husband Douglas, played by John Malkovich. Lydia appears to be in a trance and appears to be talking to her mother. Before she can help Mallory out, Lydia walks into a flaming automobile, which explodes shortly after. A man named Tom, played by Trevant Rhodes, assists Mallory in getting up and running into the home. A cop named Lucy, played by Rosa Salazar, followed them. Greg, played by B.D. Wong, the homeowner. Charlie, played by Lil Rel Howery. Felix, played by Machine Gun Kelly. Cheryl, played by Jackie Weaver, with a couple Jason, played by Taylor Handley, and Samantha, played by Amy Giminick, are also in the house. When they hear their kid on the phone, sounding in danger, the two abandon the house. The other folks all share their observations of those who have been afflicted by this mystery energy. Charlie believes the creature is caused by demons, who manifest themselves as one's darkest sadness or greatest loss. They are all aware that the creature is impenetrable, and that staring at it will result in suicide. Mallory takes a step away from the group, and Tom rushes over to console her as she informs him about Jess's disappearance. To keep people from peeking outside, the group boards up the doors and puts newspapers in the windows. Mallory and the children are still going down the river 6 hours later. Despite the fact that it is now pitch black, Mallory begins to hear the thing whispering her name as she tries to contact people over the radio. Olympia, played by Danielle MacDonald, a survivor from the past, begs to be welcomed into the mansion. Douglas tries to stop it, but Mallory takes a firearm in case anything happens. Olympia is allowed inside the house with caution, and the others notice that she is also pregnant. Greg then offers to check out the transmitters in the house to see what's going on outside. He sits in front of the computers, almost expecting to see something on the monitors, and then he does. The others soon hear a thumping from within the chamber. They get upstairs just in time to see Greg toppling over and slamming his head into a ledge, killing him. The computer monitor is then destroyed by the others. Olympia tries to talk with Mallory about their prospective baby names later that night, but Mallory simply wants to be left alone. She walks around the house, thinking she hears a thumping noise, but it's just Lucy and Felix hooking up on the river for 14 hours. Mallory hears a man's voice, played by Happy Anderson, crying out, suggesting it's okay to remove the blindfolds, but she tells the kids not to. He claims to have food and to have seen the creature. and that there is no cause to be afraid of it, Mallory pulls out her gun and fires blindly. Just as the attacker attacks her and tries to remove her blindfold, Mallory confronts the man and hacks him to death with a machete. In the past, the gang has ran out of food and has realized that rescue is unlikely to arrive. They should be guided. Mallory, Tom, Douglas, Lucy, and Charlie get together to drive to the supermarket, where Charlie used to work before everything went awry. They cover the windows with paint and use GPS to direct them. On the road, they feel they're driving over dead people on the road and try to ignore it. The GPS then begins to beep over a proximity alert, indicating that the thing is approaching them. Tom is able to get them out of the danger zone. They rush to the store and stock up on as much food as possible. Mallory notices some birds and chooses to keep them as pets. Suddenly, they hear the voice of Charlie's coworker Fish Fingers, played by Matt Leonard, screaming to be released out of a freezer. He then goes on about how wonderful the creature is and how it must be seen. Fish Fingers begins to erupt, despite Lucy, Tom, and Douglas' efforts to restrain him. After seeing the thing, Charlie believes he is doomed. He rushes up to Fish Fingers and locks them both in the freezer. Where Charlie dies, Fish Fingers pleading to be let out can still be heard, and the others are able to return home. That night, Mallory and Douglas form a fleeting bond through their personal issues. The others then hear what appears to be a car driving away. They go into the garage and discover that Lucy and Felix have vanished. On the river for 24 hours, Mallory takes a break from rowing. When she resumes, she collides with a sunken truck, causing Boy to fall out of the boat. Mallory takes him out and attempts to warm him, but the food and blankets have gone into the river, so she does her best. She abandons the children in the boat and sets out into the woods in search of sustenance. Mallory walks into a building and hears a noise and notices items moving on their own, as if the entity is pulling them. She makes it out of the building, but the thing continues to call out her name. Mallory shoots her rifle at the unknown thing, which Girl hears, prompting her to leave the boat to assist Mallory. However, Mallory finds Girl and scolds her for leaving the boat as they return to it. Tom recounts Mallory about being, and how he and his bud Epaws, IES would follow a dad as he escorted his children to school in the midst of the carnage. They begin to develop affections for each other as well. Gary, played by Tom Hollander, is a needy man who Olympia lets into the house. Gary is vigorously searched and interrogated by the others. He informs the others that some escaped mental patients pursued him and his friend, forcing them to stare at the monsters. Gary's companion fought one of them, allowing him to flee and return home. Outside, he claims, there are people who aren't wearing blindfolds, who are eager to view the monsters, and want others to see them as well. Douglas doesn't trust Gary, so he tries to evict him from the house with a gun. Cheryl, on the other hand, knocks him out, and lets Gary stay, while Douglas is locked in the garage. Olympia apologizes bitterly for bringing Gary in, and says she feels like a burden, but Mallory assures her that she isn't. Olympia then asks Mallory to look after her child in the event that she becomes ill, and Mallory accepts. Olympia is then given a Hello Kitty toy to present to the infant. We observe Girl holding the Hello Kitty toy, indicating she is Olympia's kid, after 38 hours on the river. Mallory wraps herself and the kids in a blanket as they approach the rapids, warning them that this will be the most dangerous portion of the expedition. She informs them that they'll need someone to keep their eyes open in order to navigate, and both youngsters volunteer, but Mallory decides it's not worth it to sacrifice any of them, so she says no one will look. They'll simply endure the rapids while wearing blindfolds. Both Mallory and Olympia start to have contractions. While Tom and Cheryl assist the women, Gary pulls out a collection of drawings of the creatures, as he is one of the crazy individuals who has seen them, and wants others to see them as well. He puts Mallory's birds in the fridge, because they seem to sense and alert others to danger, then tears the papers off the windows, which Douglas notices. Gary tries to get rid of Douglas by opening the garage door. In the meantime, Olympia gives birth to a girl and Mallory to a boy. When Gary walks into the room, he raises the shades in front of Olympia. She hands Mallory her baby. Just as she falls out the window, Cheryl is subsequently forced to open her eyes to the outside world, prompting her to execute herself with the scissors. Douglas brings the gun in, but he can't shoot with his eyes closed, because he's frightened of hitting Mallory and the babies. After shooting Gary in the arm, he kills Douglas by stabbing him with the scissors. When Tom and Gary seize the weapon, they each try to seize it. 2 gunshots are heard, but Tom is spotted alive and well, heading to Mallory and the children. It's been 5 years, and the film is about to begin. Mallory begins to set up her system outside as a deterrent to the children. Mallory and Tom have been cohabiting and raising their 2 children, but Tom criticizes Mallory for failing to bond with them or even give them names. The 2 get a radio communication late at night from a man named Rick, who claims to be in a secure compound with plenty of supplies and food. He explains how to travel to the compound across the river, warning them that it is perilous to walk down there with children, and that they will need to see to get through. Rick instructs them to trace the location by following the sound of birds. Tom wants to visit the compound, but Mallory believes it is a setup. They hear something outside, and it's some folks driving out of their driveways without blindfolds. The earlier survivors make their way to the house. While Mallory and the kids are protected, Tom rushes to face them. Tom is ordered to remove his blindfold by the survivors, commanded by Whistling Marauder, played by David Dastmalchian. When the Marauders see Mallory and the kids, Tom fires and kills 3 of them before taking a shot himself. Tom removes his blindfold and murders 2 more people before pursuing the leader, who is following Mallory and the children. The monster begins to affect Tom, but he fights it off long enough to murder the leader before turning the gun on himself and alerting Mallory. Mallory then gathers the children and leads them to the river. They've been on the river for 42 hours and are reaching the rapids. Mallory tries to navigate through the choppy waters, but the boat crashes over and everyone spills out. Mallory calls out to the kids and discovers Boy in the water, but Girl has made it to land, and Mallory finds her because Girl has a ringing bell. The 3 then take a trip through the woods, where the thing whispers to them and uses all of its might to get them to look, but Mallory's will is stronger, and she convinces the children to listen to her rather than look. As they approach the compound, she follows the calls of the birds, but the creature surrounds them as she tries to get inside until someone opens the entrance and lets them in. Mallory's eyes are examined, and she and the kids are given permission to enter. They meet Rick, played by Pruitt Taylor Vince, and Mallory discovers that the compound is a blind school where the students are safe from the entities. Mallory and the kids eventually find Dr. Lapham, who greets them cheerfully. Mallory finally names the kids after she asks them their names. Olympia is the name given to the girl after her mother, and Boy is named after Tom. Mallory proudly says they are her children, and she is their mother. Mallory then opens her bird box and frees the birds to be with the others in the sanctuary.
Thank you for tuning in. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the movie you just watched in the comments box below. And don't forget to subscribe for more movie recaps to come your way. Stay safe and have a nice day.